These roads intersect, on each one I reflect. These lines write my story.
Welcome everyone, I'm One True Brick, bringing you yet another LEGO Exo-Force review. Today we're looking at set number 7712. This is Supernova. It was released in 2006 for a price of about $20 and contained 287 pieces. Now, something I have to preface before I start. This set was a special edition set, I believe released only at Walmart and in LEGO stores, meaning that it's a little bit harder to find. As a result, the price tag for this set is a lot higher than most. You will probably be looking at anywhere from $70 to $100 to get this set even used. So keep that in mind if you're interested in looking at it, but by the end of the review, I have a feeling you probably won't be. So a little bit of an explanation of what I said. The Supernova was Takeshi's second battle machine. Every single character in the main line of Exo-Force members, so Takeshi, Hikaru, Ryo, and Hayato, each received a second battle machine in the second half of the year. This was Takeshi's upgrade to his Grand Titan. And as you can see, it has a very unique color scheme, once again bringing that common theme Exo-Force has of adding combinations of colors you normally wouldn't see. It is yellow and red, along with some of that gray and black thrown in there as well. And I honestly look at this set and I think it is probably the pinnacle of everything that was wrong with Exo-Force's design. Unfortunately, it is extremely fragile in design, it's overly heavy, and the gimmick is probably the most poorly placed one alongside the Silent Strike in terms of design. So let me show you what I mean here. As you look at this set, you can see the arms have a lot more bulk than previous models. They have a full hand design, and as a result, when you don't have the spear facing down, it is very top-heavy and has a very high probability of accidentally falling forward. I do like how they add the staff in there to give it a little bit of stability, but not everyone's going to have it in a pose where it's standing that way. And with some of the other sets, you can get it to stand on one foot for an action pose. It is definitely not possible with this set. So it's got that weight to it already, and on top of that, it is also extremely fragile. I think that they fixed and rectified some of this design when they made the Silent Strike a couple months later, but unfortunately that one still had some issues and it's more prevalent in this set. You can see right here, these parts have a high likelihood of falling off. The shell just kind of is attached in not a very stable way like some of the smaller models have, and this arm especially, they could have added probably some sort of plate or one of those I can't remember what they're called. They're a rounded plate that kind of acts as a brace to support a weaker part on sometimes ships and StarCraft and stuff like that that are designed in LEGO. So they could have added something underneath here to help hold this on, but instead it has a tendency to fall off like that when being stored, or even when it's just sitting here. I found that this tube right here especially has a likelihood of knocking this arm off. And unfortunately, that is not where it ends. The wings on the back that you can see especially have a high likelihood of falling off. They aren't really attached very strongly, so this right here can get bumped off, as do these other two wings up here. And so overall, it's just kind of a mess in terms of design when it comes to stability. And unfortunately, you don't get the nice trade-off that a lot of the smaller sets had with posability, unfortunately, because of the weight. You can't really position it in lots of different ways. In addition to that, these fingers have a high likelihood of falling off. And then the gimmicky light brick. So in most of the other sets, there's kind of a theme of having it act as a laser sight or even as a weapon. And unfortunately, it feels like as the second half of the year came around, LEGO was designing these sets, and they really didn't put a whole lot of thought into where this could go. And so it's literally just kind of strapped onto the arm here with a little cone piece. And it doesn't really seem to serve any sort of purpose. In the story, it's not used as a weapon. As far as I can tell, it's not really meant to be a laser sight. It's just kind of there. And I wish that if they had thought about it more, they would have come up with either a better way to position it or perhaps even gotten rid of it altogether. As you will see with some of the later models of this year, there aren't these power bricks included in the same way, and so as a result, they're able to create a more sturdy build on the inside. And so I wish they would have either thought of a better way to include it or just not included it at all and allowed that added flexibility mean that they could create a stronger torso build, because one of the reasons why this is so fragile in the torso and so front heavy is because they had to put that brick in there, or they made the decision on their own that they had to put it in there. So unfortunately that is an issue that arises from that. Additionally, some other things to note. If you do end up getting this set, I will recommend a couple changes to the build. They're pretty minor, but one of them is this weapon right here feels very high up, and honestly, just by taking it and moving it down a brick, you can, if the hands won't fall off like they usually do, you can get a nice smoother look in the way that it's held, and then it kind of has this one finger sticking off as like a trigger on a slide almost. Also, the way that this weapon is designed, it has a lot of slide to this. I would consider moving this piece to another position on the axle to give it a little bit more stability. The way they have it in the set instructions means that you have a higher potential of this sliding down from the weight. So I prefer to have it slightly higher up so that it's more stable, as the set isn't especially stable. So I know I've talked about a lot of things that I don't like about this set, and quite frankly, I'm not the hugest fan of it, but I will say it is not a complete and utter failure. It definitely achieves its goal of naming scheme. So the name of the set is the Supernova, and it definitely has that aesthetic of almost looking like an exploding star. So they've got all these fan helicopter pieces kind of splayed out, and it almost looks like an explosion. And I like the aesthetic that this set has. I just wish that their execution of building it would have worked a little bit better, and unfortunately it's more fragile than I would have liked. So, overall, if you haven't figured it out already, I personally consider this to be the weakest set of the year, and especially at its new increased price tag that you will be definitely paying for it nowadays, I wouldn't recommend you picking up this set. I would say the Grand Titan is the definitive edition of Takeshi's Battle Machine, so if you're looking to acquire the minifigure and a model to go with it, I would recommend going after that model instead of this one. However, if you do decide to get this, keep in mind that there are some other abilities that you have included in the set, one of which is an alternative model. And I will say this is one of the better looking alternative models included in these sets. So, as you can see, there is the instruction manual. And over time, this is not the instructions' fault. I wasn't the best at taking care of these when I was younger. There used to be a back sheet, but as of now, there isn't anymore. So on the back there, you can see that is the alternative model to this set. And I personally think it's one of the better looking alternative models. It seems more cohesive and well built, and I would recommend building that if you end up getting the set. Lastly, let's take a look at the minifigure. So this is the same minifigure that was included in the... Ooh, there is a piece of cat hair in there. I'm going to get rid of that. This is the same minifigure that is included in the Grand Titan, so there's no special edition version of that. You won't see any newer versions of any of the characters until the following year's worth of sets. So once again, you have that same face design, a front printed torso with the Sentai Mountain logo and some stars on it. A very nice design altogether, but once again the same as the one you get in the Grand Titan, and then an alternative side that's a little bit more angry and aggressive. And then, of course, you get that green hairpiece. And I wanted to mention something that I didn't mention in the other reviews is I really prefer this hairpiece to the other ones because it covers the entire back of the head, meaning that you can actually have either face facing forward without having the other one show through. With Hikaru's hairpiece, unfortunately, you have a little bit of the mouth sticking out underneath if you have the aggressive expression rotated to the back. So I'm glad that they designed this minifigure that way. So now that we're done with the set review, one of the things that I like to do when looking at a set is to consider the story aspects of the model and kind of how it fits into the storyline. So the way that this battle machine started off was originally there was an enemy battle machine called the Raging Storm that the robots set loose on the humans, and Takeshi and Hikaru were fighting back with the Grand Titan and Stealth Hunter, and during the fight, the Grand Titan was either damaged during the fight or damaged during the previous fight. I can't really remember which one of those, but effectively the Grand Titan was put out of commission, and Takeshi was forced to kind of watch the Stealth Hunter and Hikaru fight on their own, and it was a losing battle. And Ryo and Sensei Kiken, the master of their group, revealed that they had a prototype battle machine in the works for Takeshi to use, and they showed that this battle machine was the one that they had, and it was the first of the 4 main remakes of the team's newer battle machine. So this was the first one that we got to see in the comics. And oddly enough, now I'm sure the fragility of the set didn't carry over into the story, but oddly enough, Takeshi didn't seem to really like using this battle machine, and I'm not really entirely sure why, but following this particular battle with the Raging Storm, he actually never used the Supernova again, as far as I can tell, and switched back to using the Grand Titan. And this battle machine ended up getting used by another member of the Exo-Force later down the line when the robots attacked. They used a striking venom to attack the Sentai Fortress, and another member of Takeshi's team was seen fighting them off, and this battle machine was actually completely destroyed in that fight. There was an enemy battle machine called the Bridgewalker. There were actually 2 of them that attacked the Supernova, and as a result, the pilot just barely escaped as the Supernova was completely blown over the edge of the bridge and landed on a bridge below where it was completely just smashed to bits, unrepairable by Ryo or anyone else. So, sadly, despite the coolness of this design and the preference that I would have had that it showed up more in the story, it kind of had a little bit of a sad continuation and a sad ending to its story. It had an interesting weapon. This spear right here was called the Solar Spear and had the ability to fire a very powerful charged blast beam through something. It wasn't quite as powerful as the Grand Titan's single shot, but this weapon had the ability to be used multiple times, whereas the Grand Titan, after firing its most powerful shot, would be disabled. And then, real quick, I want to take a look at the arm here. So one of the things that people ask me is, what do these letters and numbers stand for on the outside? That is CO2, and it stands for Combat O2. So the Combat Division is what Takeshi's a part of, and this is the second battle machine developed for that division, the first one being the Grand Titan. And lastly, as I mentioned, when the Supernova was destroyed, preceding that, its parts were eventually used to put together Takeshi's final battle machine in the Deep Jungle era, called the Assault Tiger. So you can notice the color scheme is the same. That's why. So I thank you all very much for taking a look at this review. If you have any questions, you can comment below, or you can take a look at my wiki, the Exo-Force wiki, which will also be linked in the description. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. I will be taking a look at the Bridgewalker versus White Lightning next week. See ya! Bye! Because of the way the set is built, as you can see, the legs kind of has this ATST chicken walker style of